Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
Dwight Vick, welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, man. Appreciate for you guys having me on.
Yes, it's gonna be fun. I should mention we connected through Ken Oxendine.
Yes.
Ken, I asked Ken who he could get on the podcast, and he immediately said Dwight Vick, and then he texted me like the first thing the next morning after we had recorded together. It was awesome, and then you and I got to connect, and here we are.
And when you and I connected, I almost took 2 hours out your day, man, because I'm a talker. But Ken Oxendine is my brother, man. He is a special person, a great human being. I was honored to block for him, a Thomas Dale legend, and yeah, man, I'm honored to be on, man. Thank you guys for having me again.
Yeah, it's great having you, Dwight. I appreciate you doing this. All right, so you grew up in the Tidewater area. Did you grow up were you born in Hampton?
Nah, man, I'm a North Carolina guy as far as where I was born. I was born at Duke Medical University at the time in the late 70s. I was one of the largest babies they ever had on record. So it was really cool, man. I was born in Durham, and my sister was born in Raleigh, and then my toddler years my mom and dad moved back to Hampton. My mom went to Hampton University, and my dad went to Norfolk State, so they returned back home. My mom's from Florida, but my dad grew up in the 757, the Tidewater area, so they returned home, and I grew up in Newport News, and we moved to Hampton. So I grew up in Newport News and Hampton. So I'm a Tidewater guy back when the 757 was actually the 804. People don't realize that. The area code used to be the 804, and I grew up in Hampton, man. And it was a great time, man. We didn't have much as far as, fancy cars and things like that, but I'm blessed to have a mom and dad who's still together, still married, have my little sister, and family was important, man. It's the backbone of who I am now. I'm married with 3 children now, so I kind of resemble what my parents instilled in me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you spend your time when you were like 10, 11, 12 years old?
Oh, man. Hey, listen, we were outside, man. This is before the code red and code oranges when it was too hot. This is back in the day when, you didn't have Dick's Sporting Goods and Models and water bottles. This is when you got thirsty, you drunk out the water hose, or you ran in your friend's house and you put 2 hands together and you cup water from the sink and you threw it in your face. This is back when you rode your bike to the corner store and you had $3, you was rich. So we were outside, man. We played everything from stickball, wall ball, basketball, football, kickball. We made basketball goals on telephone poles, probably against the law then and now. Probably could have got electrocuted, but we didn't we didn't care. And we just were outside, man. It was, it's nostalgic when I reflect on it, man, because it was like that movie I have a shirt of, and that's the Sandlot. I had a crew like that, which I'm still friends with many of those guys, and we just walked around, we would take breaks, but then we would play again. And when the street lights came on, I came inside. So I just grew up, man, emulating guys we saw on TV, from Walter Payton to, even for me, the Hogs of the old Washington football team, the Redskins at the time. And, you played basketball, football, you ran around, you played freeze tag, and you just grew up, man. And it was a great sense of community in Hampton and Newport News back then. And my childhood was great. But at the same time, to be honest with you guys, I saw a lot of trauma growing up. I experienced it. It wasn't like I was growing up in the Book of Eli, but at the same time, I grew up in an area where, in the late 80s, the crack epidemic came in, and you saw drugs, you saw some sad endings to people's lives. But at the end of the day, my mom and dad kept me away from it. You saw it, but sports and church kept me grounded, and I knew where to go and what to do and when to leave. So I didn't really get caught up, but I saw things, unfortunately, that but hurt and affected so many people's lives.
We can talk about that part of your childhood. It sounds awful. I did not grow up that way. I'm more interested in wall ball. What is wall ball?
So No, it's cool because I don't want to dive into all that either, man. It's just a part of where I'm from. But I had a glorious childhood. Wall ball, we played more at the schools, or depending if we were on a build at a building we weren't supposed to. So wall ball, you take a tennis ball and one of them little rubber bouncy balls, 5, 6, 7 guys, or you could even have 4 guys, and you would just throw it against the wall as hard as you can. And if you were trying to, the next person had to catch it. And if he didn't catch it cleanly, he had to run and tag the wall. And the other people grabbed the ball if he missed it or she missed it. Girls sometimes played too. And we would just beam him with the ball. So, and there was, this is before everybody was thinking about childhood safety and abuse. So it didn't matter if you hit him in the eye socket, the head, the eardrum, you know, but it was fun, man. Wall ball was something we did a lot at school, man. And you know, again, man, I look back, I think, man, anything that was dangerous, we tried.
Yeah, and your mom and dad didn't have a clue what you were doing, right?
You know what, man? I'm a parent now, and it's funny how I'm trying to be aware and be involved, but my mom and dad, you know, this is like I said, guys, it was like when you went outside, it was like just do your chores, do what you're supposed to do, and you played, and you were out and about. There was no trackers, there was no cell phones. We just were out and about, man. And my mom and dad knew I was with friends, and you know, it's funny, man. You knew, even though we walked that fine line between, you know, having a lot of fun and being dangerous, you knew what you weren't supposed to do. At least I did. I knew if I got caught up, my mom and dad would find out. So we just found anything we can do that was risky, but also excited and got that adrenaline going.
So Dwight, you said you're a parent. How many kids do we have?
In my family, I grew up. It's just me and my sister. Oh, I'm a parent. You mean me as a parent?
Yeah, you now. Yeah, you now.
Oh yeah, man. I'm married 20 years, been with my wife 24, been married 20, and I have Lauren, my youngest, who is a 6th grader. She's 11, and Isaiah, my only son, he's a 15-year-old. He's already 6'5", past me.
Oh my goodness.
He's a basketball player. He's a hooper. And he's a sophomore. And then my oldest daughter, Sydney, she's a senior, and she plays volleyball. She's played volleyball for the last 10 years, if not longer. And she just actually made all district, and she's not going to play in college, but she's playing varsity basketball. So I have a family full of athletes. My wife, Shanice, met her at Virginia Tech, and she's from Northern Virginia. She was an all-metro track runner here in Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland area in the 90s, and probably should have ran collegiately, but didn't. But we met at Virginia Tech at the Volume 2 bookstore. I was in there actually being a student athlete, getting some books, and ran up in here, and she couldn't resist this Big Daddy game I hit her with. But we got 3 wonderful children, man. And like I said, man, I love my family. I love my wife, and try to be a good dad, man.
So and Paul, sorry, I didn't mean to jump us from Dwight being 10 years old to him being married with kids. But I appreciate that too. That's cool. But I think all of us on the podcast right now have 3 kids. And what I was gonna ask you is, have you had a challenge? Because you mentioned being outside. And I know Rob and Paul and we didn't grow up together. I know Rob and Paul grew up together, but we were outside all day long as well. And did you ever have any issues? Or are you currently having issues getting your kids to play outside? Is it all video games? Sounds like your son's playing ball a lot, and that's cool. But what's it like for you?
It's interesting. That's a great question. They're very active. They actually go outside. Now, you know, obviously my oldest daughter is a senior, so now it's college tours and hanging out. Her boyfriend is in college, is a freshman, and going to homecomings and parties and hanging out with her friends. But Isaiah, today they had today's a voting day in Virginia, so they were off. And Isaiah was outside playing with some of his teammates. They were putting up shots and shooting and playing 21. And my youngest daughter goes out with her neighbors, her girlfriends, and hangs out in the community. And you know, it's just it's cool. They're active. Isaiah has video games, but you know, we take it from him during the school year because he's got to focus. Because you know, man, these games now, everything is so intense. They'll play video games for 4 or 5 hours now, so you have to monitor it. But they're very active.
That's cool.
Very cool. It sounds like you're a better father than I am, because two of my three, it's hard to get them out of the house. It's
Oh,
really hard
really?
to get them out. This isn't about my family. It's all good. So Dwight, football, did you know that was going to be a thing from a very young age? Because it sounds like you've basically been bigger than your peers
Oh,
your entire
yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah. It's so much easier to find clothes now, but when you are, 13 years old and you're 6'3.5" and wearing a size 13, 14, my favorite sport's basketball. I played for Boo Williams. Back before Boo Williams was the Boo Williams. I played basketball because I was tall and thin, but I had broad shoulders and I kept putting on weight. So, I was in love with basketball, but my body said you have to marry football. So you knew early on, man. And I love football. I love basketball. I just love competition. So I kind of knew I was going to play football. And then when I got into it, I was like, okay, I want to do this for the rest of my life as long as I can. But like early on, we didn't have any specialization. So whatever season it was, you played it. So I played football during football season, basketball during basketball. I would have tried baseball, but I was a punk. I mean, them balls were coming too fast, man, when it comes to pitches. Like, I have so much respect for baseball players, man. Like, people don't know, man. Like, when that guy's on that mound, he's coming with that heat, I mean, it's crazy, man. Like, but I got into football. I remember walking around my freshman year in high school at Hampton High, and the coaches saw me, Coach Mike Smith, who's still coaching 50 years at Hampton High. And he saw me, he was like, "Where the hell are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going, to basketball workouts." He said, "Hell you are." And this is back in the day when they could just solicit players and grab you by the neck and grab your arm before people started filing lawsuits. And he just threw me in the weight room, man, and was just like, and I just started working out and I made varsity as a freshman. And the crazy thing is, man, is I started school early. I graduated high school at 17 years old. I was 13 in ninth grade at 6'3", 6'4". And I had the size, the frame, and I was a very bright kid, and it was the perfect storm. And I was at a program that had a history of putting guys at the next level, from Aaron Mundy to Robert Banks, Sean Hamlet, Dwight Stevenson, Chris Hamburger, 2 Hall of Fame NFL players. So Hampton High, Arnold Curry. I mean, I can go on Tyrod Taylor. So they had a history for 40, 50 years of putting guys in the collegiate level. So I was at the right place at the right time with the right coaching staff. Coach Mitchell, God rest his soul. So it just kind of was, I lived in the right area, an area we all know in the 757, the Tidewater area, that the whole region is historically great for producing great athletes. So it was a great situation for me.
So you didn't play until ninth grade?
Yeah, because, this is before unlimited weight. So, like, I played for Aberdeen Raiders when they had Allen Iverson, but I never played a full season because I remember one time, this is going to freak you guys out. I was on the 12U team, and I missed weight because I was 225 pounds at 12 years old.
Wow.
But I wasn't obese. I wasn't walking around like I could barely move. I mean, I was moving. I mean, I was fast and I was big, but they were like, you can't play. So, Hampton has it where in 8th grade you could play JV, but at that time I was not as experienced. So like I would play youth ball. If I did play a season, I was a backup because I was still learning. People don't realize just because you're big and tall doesn't mean you know how to play the game the right way. So I was a big kid. So my gifts and my skill set didn't really catch up to me until like I got to Hampton High. I don't have this long history of playing youth football like some guys did when they got to high school. Ironically, I had a history of playing youth basketball. So it was just weird how that worked out. And I got to high school, man, and I made the varsity team, didn't even know what the heck I was doing. And then that 10th grade year, I started 11th grade and 12th year, I became one of the best players in Hampton High history at my position.
And were you playing guard the entire time?
Now I was a tackle. I played both ways. Coach Mike Smith and Coach Mann and Coach Mitchell, they like the 80s and 90s, and even maybe right now. I know back then you kept your best players on the field. So I played offense and defense. I was on punt return team, punt team, extra point. I didn't play kickoff, thank God. That's just too much running. But but I played everything, man. I was all district, all region, and on offense and defense, and I was a tackle, and I was a left tackle. I could play right tackle. Looking back, I wish I learned how to snap, but I played tackle, man, and I was good at offense and defense. I mean, you just learn how to get in shape, and it was a great time playing those positions.
What did you like better, offense or defense?
Great question. Great question, Paul. Defense is fun because you get to chase quarterbacks and tackle. But I mean, this is going to sound funny, but I had great feet, long arms. I was athletic from my size, so I actually enjoyed playing offense. Probably more because I was gifted. I mean, and to be fair, when you are big and tall and you're knowing what you're doing, you're athletic and you're strong. High school, even back then and even now, you're only going to go against maybe 2 or 3 of the D1, D2 level players in a 12-game season. So there was a couple of guys, okay, like at Phoebus or Bethel, I'm like, okay, I got to really strap it up type. Otherwise, I was going against, like, you've seen The Blind Side, when you're going against guys, you're going against guys that come up to your belly button. So sometimes I was just like, blocking him while I looked in the stands to see if somebody was eating a smoked sausage. You just would, what I'm saying? Like, you were just doing your thing, but offense was fun. I mean, I just love, you got to remember that time frame, the early 90s and the late 80s. You had the Washington Redskins, Hogs. You had the Dallas Cowboys, Eric Williams, Nate Newton. Those guys, the Washington Redskins, pardon me if I, offend anybody, but the Washington football team and the Dallas Cowboys, those lines, and even the Giants with Jumbo Elliott, the Redskins, Russ Grimm, Joe Jacoby, the Dallas Cowboys, Nate Newton, and all those guys, Larry Allen, Eric Williams, they made playing O-line sexy, man. They made it like famous, so it was Jim Lachey. I mean, you don't really have a lot of household offensive linemen now. So back then, it was pretty cool. And I didn't mind it doing it. I mean, everybody wants to play running back or tight end or quarterback. I didn't mind it, especially in 10th grade. When 10th grade, my first year starting, I'm getting interest letters from Notre Dame, Syracuse, Boston College, Howard, Norfolk State, UVA, Virginia Tech, Navy, Oklahoma State, Florida State. All of a sudden, you're like, hey, okay. You know what I'm saying? You're getting letters like that. And then my 11th grade, Pittsburgh's calling, offering me, and my phone's ringing off the hook. So I'm like, East Carolina, this is phenomenal. I mean, now all of a sudden, having a hard time finding clothes seems much more easier because it means I'm a rare breed. And I was a pretty bright kid, so I had good grades. So it was a great situation.
So who was your favorite college football or college basketball team when you were in high school?
Say it again.
Yeah, sorry, we just froze up. No, yeah, you're good. It froze up. Who was your favorite college football and college basketball team when you were in high school?
Okay. Now we're going to get into some. So I'm about to hurt some feelings right now. So that's my disclaimer. So I'll start with basketball because that probably won't frustrate so many people or surprise people. I was born at Duke Medical University. So I was a Duke fan. I never forget. Sorry guys, I was a Duke fan. As an 8-9-year-old, I was remember sitting in front of the TV during the Danny Ferry era or whatever, and my mom says to me, you were born there, and I was like, what? And they were playing in the tournament, and she was like, yeah, you were born at Duke, and I don't really understand how college works because I'm a kid, and I just started following them, and then I really became a huge Duke fan, especially during the Bobby Hurley. Ironically, being a guy from Hampton, here I am growing up in Newport News in this urban area, Hampton and Newport News, and I'm cheering for Leitner and Bobby Hurley. Bobby Hurley there was nobody that looked like Bobby Hurley on Shell Road or in Eastern Newport News. But keep in mind, my mom told me that, and and started liking him. I mean, Bob Leitner and Bobby Hurley, and it's funny because everybody around the way was rocking with UNLV or Kenny Anderson at Georgia Tech, Lethal Weapon 3, or Michigan, the Fab Five. But I was rocking with the Davis and Thomas Hill and Grant Hill and Leitner. So that was the golden era of basketball for me. So I was a Duke fan. I mean, I followed them when they had Maggette and the kid William Avery that left early, and Battier. So it was funny, man, because Duke during that time, you obviously either loved or hated. More people hated Leitner because of the way they played, their arrogance, and people felt like they always got the call. But more importantly, especially during that era, Duke ruined some of the greatest dynasties in basketball history.
They did.
So I mean, they beat UNLV, which to this day is one of the best teams. But that, if you do the due diligence, Coach Tarkanian said that he didn't think his team was ready to play when they were undefeated going in for a repeat. And then the Michigan team, I always felt Jalen Rose and company was so talented, but I feel like they weren't disciplined. And I feel like Duke was just, you can hate Leitner and hate Hurley and those guys, but Grant Hill was a one-of-a-kind player, 6'8", freshman that came in, and then the following year, he just was special, his whole 4 years. But yeah, now football, some of my first mail came from Notre Dame and UVA. College football, to all your listeners, UVA was my favorite team. UVA and Notre Dame, man. I mean, I rock with the Fighting Irish because they had Tony Rice and the Rocket and Betts and Becton and all those running backs they had. Notre Dame came on NBC. They had the golden helmets, and they just were one of America's teams. But UVA, it was special because at the time, Aaron Mundy, one of the best high school players in Virginia High School League history, played football and basketball, was there with Herman Moore, Sean Moore, Terry Kirby, Chris Slade, who was both, those guys are all from Tidewater. They were from Tab. And Terry Kirby, to me, let me tell you something, man. I'm going on record. I've gone on record before Ronald Curry, before Allen Iverson, there was a Terry Kirby. And I'm telling you right now, if you listen to this podcast, go Google it, YouTube it, talk to people. Terry Kirby was special. A guy that size, that strong. I think even UVA fans don't appreciate him the way they should. And let me tell y'all something. I was a fan. I mean, I know I'm a Hokie now, and I love Tech, and this is nothing. This is my childhood I'm talking about. And UVA was recruiting me, and even before they were recruiting me, they were showing me interest. And they were number one in 1990, my freshman year in high school. Man, they were number one in the nation. They were undefeated, and they had guys from around the way. And Sean Moore, before everybody was getting those Tyrod Taylor, Michael Vick type quarterbacks. And he was doing it, man, more to more. I mean, Herman Moore, what was he, 6'5" out there? They had that turf field. And my last point on why I was a UVA fan, my high school, we used to go there, play at Hampton High. Coach Mike Smith and George Welsh were great friends. They still are good friends or whatever. I mean, I know they had a great relationship. So we would go there for jamborees in high school, for scrimmages, preseason games, and get dressed in the locker room and tour the campus. And I remember UVA looking at me, their coaches, they were sizing me up, and they had a lot of interest. And they ended up taking Robert Hunt from Minchville. He was my year, and he was a great lineman for them. Shout out to Robert Hunt. He played great for them. And then the other guy they took from Phoebus was a bust, Charles Bostic. He was not better than me, but he had a 3.8 GPA, and I think he was a UVA fan. Also a very good player in high school, but he wasn't better than me. But Robert Hunt ended up being a great player. Bostic did not. At least I don't remember him in college.
Hey, Dwight, before we get off of high school, and first of all, I'm a Tar Heel fan, so all that Duke talk was getting me. I was kind of breaking out in a rash. But you're right about all of it. I can't argue any of it. But the high school quarterback situation in Newport News has always been incredible. And being a big basketball, I'm a football sports fan, but I'm a basketball fan, I guess, probably first and foremost. Is there, and I've YouTubed it, we've all Googled it. I know there's Tyrod, there's Aaron Brooks, there's Ronald Curry, Michael Vick. How good was Allen Iverson as a quarterback?
I've known Iverson since he was 7 years old. And Iverson is he was not a better quarterback than, he'll tell you he was, but he wasn't a better quarterback than Aaron Brooks as far as like dropping back and looking off safeties and all of that. But Iverson to this day was one of the best athletes and biggest playmakers I've ever seen. He had a feel for the moment. He could play safety, but he could play kick returner, punt returner. He could play wide receiver. But when he played quarterback, the year they made a run to the state championship in 1992, he couldn't be touched. He lit up EC Glass. He lit us up my junior year. We were number 1 in the state and number 8 in the nation by USA Today high school national rankings. They beat us 31-10. And they had to win that game. They were 7-2 and we were 9-0. And they had to beat us to get in the playoffs. And Iverson did everything. He talked trash to our bench. He talked trash to our crowd. He said some stuff before the game. He got in our quarterback's head. But I mean, as far as his quarterback play, there's always going to be a debate about him, you know, in regards to Iverson, Ronald Curry, Michael Vick, Aaron Brooks, even Taj Boyd, Tyrod Taylor, Eric Hunter. You know, I even throw in, you know, EJ Manuel. You know, it's always going to be a lot of people in that 757 who are going to have their debates. I even throw in Eric Hunter, who was a 1990 Parade All-American, who went to Purdue and was a Big Ten Rookie of the Year and didn't even start the whole season. He was at Hampton High. So you're talking about a region, especially the peninsula, that just had phenomenal quarterbacks. And, you know, Iverson was right there. And I just think that when you look at what he did, is little his easy. If he walked into your house then and now, you would still just be like, hey, this guy he doesn't look like he should be like playing at this level. Like he was just special.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I mean, Iverson, he talked trash, you know, and I played against him in football and basketball, and God created him to be disruptive on anything he did. I don't mean that in a negative way. He just was just a special athlete. But you know what's funny is Ronald Curry, I still got to give the nod. Bobby Bowden called him the best football player he ever saw. And Ronald Curry in 1 year was responsible for over 79 touchdowns his junior year. And to this day, I don't know anybody that's been a National Gatorade Player of the Year in football and basketball. He was the McDonald's All-American Game MVP his senior year. He was also the dunk contest winner. And he also led Hampton to 3 consecutive state championships in football, 1 national championship in football, and also a state championship in the same year in basketball. So what Ronald did was take what Iverson started to the next level. But don't sleep on Aaron Brooks. Aaron Brooks, man, at UVA and at high school. I mean, I posted on Twitter. I don't know if you guys are on Twitter, some highlights of Iverson playing football, and they just they're just sick. He was ridiculous. You won't see an era like that in Virginia or really in high school sports ever again, because now kids specialize. You'll never see an era where you had that many guys, from Taj Boyd to Allen Iverson to Aaron Brooks to Ronald Curry to Michael Vick, Marcus Vick, Tyrod Taylor, Brian Randall, Eric Hunter, Aaron Sparrow. You'll never see it again in Virginia. You won't see that ever again. And that doesn't mean the kids coming out now aren't great. It's just that now, if you're good in baseball, you just stick to baseball.
Hey, so Dwight, I'm a UVA guy, and Ronald Curry I've never been so excited about a guy verbally committing to my school, and then never been so crushed when he decided, I think on signing day or maybe the day before, to go with
Mhm.
UNC. Do you know the backstory to that?
All I know is, I wanted to get Ronald to UVA because I was recruiting Michael Vick to Virginia Tech. And I've always felt one of the selling points I had to Mike when I was recruiting him to Tech was you and Ronald could be the best rivalry in the history of college football because there were so many storylines between their rivalry. And they were good friends outside of the game. Two of the classiest people you ever meet. But I don't want to say Ronald made a mistake going to UNC, but it didn't work out like it should have because he played too early because Oscar Davenport got hurt. Mac Brown left to go to Texas, and Dean Smith retired shortly thereafter. And UNC still had, I think his name was Guthridge.
Right.
And they had
Bill
him, and they
Guthridge.
had they had another guy that came in after him that played with Michael Jordan, took over for
Matt
him.
Doherty.
Matt
Yeah.
Doherty. Those guys weren't Dean Smith. And God bless Dean Smith. So you won't, again, I mentioned that's the golden era. You won't see Dean Smith, you won't see Frank Beamers, you won't see Coach Cage, you won't see George Welsh's anymore. Now guys coach here, they go there, then they get into TV, they come back, coach again, get married, leave, scandal, investigation, come back, coach. You're not gonna see that no more. Ronald made the best decision for him. What I do know is there were guys around him that were UNC guys. I don't mean that's not to say anything illegal went down. There was no exchanging of the bag. Nobody was taking anything under the table. But I think at the time, the lore of UNC, our high school basketball coach, Coach Brower, was a UNC fan. I mean, to be fair, man, it's tough to turn down Dean Smith. And if you take a step back, I know UVA fans they labeled him one year the worst person on the face of the earth or something like that.
I'm not one of them. It's we're just talking about sports here, right? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I think if you take a step back, he had a very good career at those schools. It's just tough because Ronald came in during his high school era into the internet era. And when Rivals started to emerge, the Rivals recruiting site before 247, because back then it was just basically the Daily Press, the Richmond Times-Dispatch, Tom Lemming, the Roanoke Top 25. You didn't have all these publications and websites. Ronald Curry came into that era where he was so hyped, he was never going to live up to what people said he was going to be or should be. To be the National Gatorade Player of the Year in two sports, the National Player of the Year, to be coming into an era where Allen Iverson had just come out of that area and Michael Vick was doing his thing at Tech, Ronald was in a no-win situation in regards to expectations. For me, I'll be honest with you, I would have loved to see him at UVA because Aaron Brooks and Mike Groh were there. They had moved on. I think the table was set. You had Thomas Jones and all those guys. UVA was still very relevant, had talent on offense and defense. I just think you had Womack, who was a running back there, and so many other guys. Raymond Mann, who was an All-American linebacker out of high school, went there. There were so many guys from Tidewater and Richmond that went there. And ironically, they still were good, but it didn't work out for Ronald or those guys the way I thought if they came together at UVA, it would have. And to be fair, when I was asked one time why people, UVA kind of struggled to regroup, I think you had one of my guys who I liked a lot, Matt Schwab, who had a great run at UVA. He beat Tech in 2003. You have my guy who I love to death, Marcus Hagan's Biscuit, who played quarterback. Other than those two guys, you really never saw those UVA quarterbacks they had before them. You never saw the Aaron Brooks, the Groves, the Sean Moores. They always kind of were trying to get a guy in there to fit what they were trying to get with Ronald and they had in previous years. And it didn't always pan out, man. Like the kid Sewell, he was good, but he wasn't what UVA standard was. And you saw the same thing when Mike didn't go to Syracuse. When Mike didn't go to Syracuse, he went to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech elevated to a very good program to become an elite relevant program. Syracuse never really recovered after getting after McNabb left. They had a guy by the name of Troy Nunes and all these different guys, but nobody ever could do what McNabb did. And like pro ball and college ball, when you don't have a quarterback, you don't have the team you can be because you're looking for that guy to lead your offense. And that's not a shot at anybody that went to UVA. Obviously, they still had some good teams, but I felt like if Ronald went there, given his skill set, I mean, he was one of the best quarterbacks I ever saw. So the Carolina thing, you know, it is what it is.
No, it is. And to put a bow on the enigma that was Ronald Curry, he ended up making his money as a wide receiver in the NFL. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
How good
Yeah.
was that man as an athlete?
You
Crazy.
know, I'm telling you, I just think sometimes we live in a world where we are so fixated on scrutinize and criticize, we don't appreciate a person's greatness, right? To be flexible to play in the NFL at receiver. Now he's coaching as an NFL guy. He's coaching with the Saints. He does great work in the community down in New Orleans and in Virginia. You know, and he did great work at North Carolina on the field. It just, when you lose a guy like Mac Brown on the football field, it's just not the same. I played against those Mac Brown teams. We got our doors blown in the Gator Bowl in '97, right before he left. And you know, they had Dre Bly, Vonnie Holiday, Ebenezer Ecubon, Greg Ellis, so many guys, man. The kid from Deep Creek, the running back that was my size running the ball, he was a Deion Dyer. I mean, they had so many great players. And all of a sudden, man, you know, Mac Brown leaves Texas once again, a coach, a quarterback. Carolina falls off, Texas gets elevated. Basketball, Dean Smith leaves, Carolina still goes to the tournament, but you go from winning 20 or more games every year to struggling because, you know, Ronald Curry was there with Ed Cota. But you go from having Rasheed and all those guys and Ed Cota to Ronald Curry and Julius Peppers, both guys that played football and basketball, so they could never commit fully to one sport. And then you go from having Guthridge, a long-time assistant, to what's his name? I'm bad with names today.
That's okay.
Doherty.
Matt Doherty. Yeah.
That he's not, you know, he wasn't the right fit for the long-term answer. And that's the difference between keeping a dynasty going and just kind of treading water and being a solid program.
Yeah. All right. So Dwight, how did you end up at Tech?
You know, it's crazy, man. You know, I wasn't Tech, you know, as I mentioned, the UVA was the premier program in the early 90s, man. And other programs were better. You know, shout out to Coach Frank Beeman, man. They pursued me and they jumped into my top list. I didn't do like the kids do today, and you know, there was no social media, so I didn't do blessed to receive an offer every chance I got an offer. I didn't have a top 17. You know, now these guys release their top 17. You know, I was getting recruited by Clemson hard, and they had some coaching changes. Georgia Tech getting recruited by them hard, coaching changes, and UVA was on me. Florida Gators were on me very hard. I love Florida. My dad wanted me to go to Florida, NC State, and other schools, but there was something about Tech that stayed the course, man. And I remember getting home from basketball practice. At the time, Billy Height, longtime assistant, the Mather High School great, also a North Carolina great. For football, University of North Carolina great. Billy Height was recruiting Virginia that year, only for that year. And he was my recruiter. And for UVA, I'll be honest with you guys, UVA, despite my infatuation and love for them, I was being recruited by Tom O'Brien. And that's like being recruited by the Grinch Who Stole Christmas. You know,
you've heard this before.
We have heard this before.
Tom O'Brien is not a people's person. Tom O'Brien, you know, I remember I was on the phone with him one night and he was like, "You really think Virginia Tech's going to sustain that success?" And I was like, "I don't know." You got to remember I'm 17 years old. And he was like, "Yeah, you know, they were lucky. You should have won." And I was like, "Yeah, again." And he wasn't negative. It's not like Tom O'Brien doesn't know football. And then he asked about other schools I was being recruited by. And I remember, you gotta understand something. My mom and dad are products of HBCUs, historically Black colleges. My dad went to Norfolk State. My mom went to Hampton University. My dad is now a doctorate. He's a PhD. My mom has been teaching for 40 plus years. She's got her master's. So I come from a family big on education. And he said, "Who else you looking at?" My top 10 was interesting. I had Florida, you know, UVA and other schools. but I also had Howard in the mix. He said, why would you want to go to Howard and play in less in front of 9,000 people? And I was like, ooh, he shouldn't have said that. And I remember Coach Height told me, he said, anytime a coach badmouths other programs, you got to be careful. So that story I mentioned to you in 2007 that David Till did on me and Terry Kirby, in that article, you can look this up. It highlights how I was leaning towards UVA, but they kind of dropped the bag in trying to sell me on that. And it was their loss and Tech's gain. Not to make myself out to be a Heisman candidate, but O'Brien didn't close the deal. He actually turned me off. And you know, you can listen to what Russell Wilson said. O'Brien is a great coach, but you got to know how to be a people's person too. Coach Kavanaugh, who recruited at Tech and was a great coach there, he is also a straight shooter like Tom O'Brien, but Kavanaugh knows how to crack a joke, put his arm around you, but also be honest. And I don't know if O'Brien did that. So I come home from basketball practice with my attention. And ironically, the person that sent tons of guys to UVA, Coach Mike Smith, told me to give Tech more of a look. He had two daughters that went to Virginia Tech. Everybody assumed because so many Hampton High guys went to UVA that he was anti-Tech. He was the one that said, you ought to give Tech a look. You know, I think they got something going. You might, and I was like, really? He said, yeah. So I came home from basketball practice and Coach Beamer and Coach Height were in my living room. And I'm just being honest with you guys. This, you know, stories from the center of the universe. So I'm gonna keep it real in this universe, man. I get to the door and my sister's like, she's in, I'm in 12th grade, she's in 9th. She's like, there's two white guys in our living room. And I was like, what? She's like, what did you do? I said, I didn't do nothing. So I go in there as Beamer, and it's Beamer and Coach Height, man. And he was like, listen, we're building something. I want you to come here and play for me. We got a lot of guys coming, including Ken Oxendine, Tony Morrison. They were trying to get Aaron Brooks. He was my year. We didn't get Aaron, obviously. But Tony Morrison was a two-four-star Indian River. Ken Oxendine was one of the best running backs, linebackers in the nation at Thomas Dale. Marcus Parker was from Salem and Roanoke. He was coming. He rushed for then a record 366 yards in the playoff game. So I heard the names and I was like, yeah. And he said, just come take a visit. Come take a visit, see what you like. So I visited East Carolina. That was my first visit. I went to Virginia Tech. And as much as I was loving UVA and Notre Dame in Florida, I got to Tech and I felt comfortable. They had a lot of guys from the Peninsula District. Beamer was putting a big emphasis on getting and winning the state. And what really sold me on him is even though UVA was the better program at the time, they beat UVA back in the old Sky Stadium when they had that turf field. They beat UVA 17-10. It was a big goal line stand they had, led by a freshman at the time, Cornell Brown, out of EC Glass. And it caught my eye, and the rest was history, man. You know, again, I don't want to, knock Tom O'Brien, but you guys have been around the game. And you got to connect with your recruiter. And he just seemed like he just was kind of always mad, bro. Like he always seemed like he had a bad day at the office, man.
Oh, that's great.
Where Coach Height joked a lot, and he asked me how I'm doing, and he was honest with me too. But it's great to have people that want you to come to their university that really, O'Brien and all those guys, all those coaches respected my ability and wanted me to be part of their program. So I still, even though 20 years later, I still appreciate that.
Yeah, it sounds like Tech had their recruiting game together back then, and UVA didn't. I mean, look, whether you're playing football, you're a student, you're in business, whatever it is, you want to be around people that are uplifting and positive, right? You don't want to be around people that are always in a bad mood. Yeah, if I were you, I would have gone to Tech too.
Yeah,
and I'm saying that as a UVA alum.
I'll say this, man. I'll say this. I still respect George Welsh. I still like George Welsh. I mean, me and Ahmad Hawkins. Ahmad is UVA's version of me. There's a lot of stuff in the media, runs his mouth a lot, does a lot of stuff. He's a UVA ambassador. And we joke about our coaches. We both played for Coach Mike Smith in Hampton High. And Ahmad, they love Welsh the way we love Beamer. But, at that time, Welsh was more established, and I didn't get the calls from him. But seeing the head coach in your living room, to take, and it was like a weekday. It wasn't like on some weekend or whatever. It was in my living room, and it meant a lot to me because other guys were sending their assistants or that recruiting coordinator. So I don't have anything against UVA at that time. It was just the way it worked out. It was meant for me to go there, but I'm gonna go to Tech. But we went 2-2 against each other, so it wasn't like they had any issues. I mean, they had Robin Hunt, Wally Rayner, one of the best safeties of all time. I want to shout out Anthony Poindexter, who went into the UVA Sports Hall of Fame. I met Anthony at the VHSL All-Star game from Lynchburg. He's a class act. I damn near cried when I was at home on a bye week, and I remember they were playing NC State, and he tore his knee.
Oh,
and
awful.
I almost cried. I did cry a little bit. I teared up, you know what I mean? Because we're competitors, man. We hate each other for those 4 hours, man, but you know what he put in. And we were both in the Ravens mini camp together in Baltimore. And I was there as a free agent. I got released. He stayed as a 6th or 7th round draft pick, but he never really played because his knee was never right. And, it's a fine line between leaving early and staying late, you know what I mean? So, but look at him now, man. He's coaching. He got in the Hall of Fame. And to me, I played against Ed Reed and Allen Iverson, Torian Gray, and I would put Anthony Poindexter right there with those guys. One of the best safeties of all time.
I think he's UVA's best safety of all time. I don't think that there's any question about that. Hey, so what's your fondest memory from playing football at Tech?
There's a few. Beating Miami 4 years in a row, shutting those guys up from the U. When you beat guys, when you beat Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne, Jamie German, Kennard Lane, Holmes, Dan Morgan, Nate Webster, Edgerrin James, Damian Lewis. You're doing the damn thing, you know what I mean? Like, going 4-0 against them was special. They weren't at the time. Butch Davis had them rebuilding, but we still beat them. And those guys were still in the hunt for the conference at the time with us. Also winning the Sugar Bowl, I was a backup, but I played some that year. Seeing Tech beat Texas when Texas they probably were more the premier university than they are now. Now they're hoping they return. At that time, Texas played us in the Sugar Bowl. They knocked off the 2-time defending national champions in Nebraska. So we played them that year. And then also my last game, playing Alabama in the inaugural Music City Bowl. They were 7-4, or maybe 8-4. They weren't the Alabama they are now, but even though their fans and the players that year, they were talking a lot of trash to us that whole week. We're from the SEC and this, that, whatever, and we smashed them 38-7. It was a Northeastern that weekend, and it was freezing. Funny story, my wife, then my girlfriend told me my father stole the blanket out the hotel to wear at the game. The blanket from the hotel bed. He's a minister. He's a minister, but he was like,
it was that cold.
It was, brother. Listen, it was freezing. But you know what? We beat Alabama. Alabama had Chris Samuels, the all-pro tackle for the Redskins. He was on that team. Fernando Bryant, who was an all-SEC cornerback, and Sean Alexander, who, if you remember, was the all-pro Pro Bowl running back for the Seattle Seahawks after he left Alabama. We beat him. And that game gave momentum to the national championship appearance team for Virginia Tech in '99. So those are some of my great moments, man. Meeting my wife there, my best friends for life, Sharon Stitt, Derek Smith, so many guys, I can't name them all. And, I played for some great coaches and Coach Steinspring and Coach J.B. Grimes. So Bud Foster. That was the golden era of Tech football. Maybe one day they'll get back, but that was, how it all started and how it all began. So just a great time, man. Took a lot of pride, man. I appreciate you asking that question, man, because the older I get, the more I appreciate the life I have and also the struggles and successes I had at that university and during that time.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Dwight, I grew up a Tech fan because my dad went there, my uncle went there, and they would take me to football games. And Tech, we're talking about back in the 70s, early 80s, they were not a good team. It's like they weren't trying.
No.
And then around the time that you and others were going to Tech, that's when they became awesome, and they stayed there for quite some time. Like most Tech fans don't remember the bad days.
Oh, and that's why I laugh on Twitter now. Rock, this is not rock bottom. You're 4-4 and 2-2 in the ACC. You're still in the position to make a run at the Coastal. Them UVA, Miami, and Pitt. At the end of the day, you're not relevant as far as the national title picture, but only 5 to 6 teams are. Rock bottom is when Beamer got there in 2-8-1, or the years before Beamer got there, when Dooley was there, and they were just a struggling program. I mean, and then you look at some other programs now, like Florida State and other programs who are really, really struggling. Tech fans have no idea how hard it used to be a Tech fan. When I remember being in the spring game in my years, you could hear people having conversations during the spring game. Like I was on the field, I could hear people talking about where they were going for dinner. And then, now, 50,000 strong, but that's a result of Beamer hiring the right people. And to be fair, to bring it back to UVA, this is why I say the UVA Tech rivalry, I don't know if it ever will be what it was during my time, but it actually works out for both of them, because both Beamer and Welsh said it's enough players in the Commonwealth for both teams to get enough players. Like both teams can get their fair share of Tech and UVA guys. And if anything, it pushes you both to be great, right? But that's my theory, but yeah, man, it's amazing when I look at the growth of that university, because I went there and I caught some slack, man, because I was being recruited hard by Florida, man, and nobody knew where Tech was. I remember I came back home one year. I was a redshirt freshman, and I was wearing some Tech gear around the way in Hampton, Newport. Maybe I was in Williamsburg, and some kids were like, "You go to Vermont?" They saw the
VT.
Yeah.
They saw the. I was like, "Nah, man, it's Virginia." They were like, "Where?" And I was like, "Blacksburg." And they were like, "Huh? Why you go there?" I was like, "All right." And then next thing you know, keep in mind, guys, I was the first Virginia Tech player from Hampton High to sign there in 1980, since 1985. So in 94, when I signed, the last player from Hampton High to sign there was a linebacker by the name of Leslie Bailey. So from 1985 to 1994, nobody from Hampton High was going to Tech. Some of that has to do with a story you may know or not know about, but a guy by the name of James Wilson, who went to Tennessee. James Wilson is also related to Myron Newsom, Daz Newsom, Deion Newsom, and Marcus Higgins, and David Wofford, who was also from Hampton High. He's their cousin. James Wilson was an All-American defensive end, where Virginia Tech was recruiting him. They said he didn't have the right math class and couldn't get in, couldn't qualify. So he went to Tennessee and played with Todd Kelly, ended up having an All-American career. Coach Smith, who's still coaching 50 years in the game, is very well known and well respected, and also can be very petty when you don't take care of one of his players. And he didn't let them in the building. And then he didn't let them in the building. And then you had UVA. Come on, look at the correlation. All of a sudden, all those guys that would have went to other schools are going to either North Carolina or UVA. So I broke that streak, and next thing you know, I get Myron Newsom to come to Tech. I get Tyrod Taylor to come to Tech, who's from Hampton High. David Wofford, who I thought I had, ended up going to UVA along with Marcus Higgins. But the point I'm getting at is, no matter what you do in life, relationships are essential. Like they're essential, because if you take care of my players, I'm going to take care of you, and we can have an ongoing relationship. Even if I don't get every player, we're going to make sure we look out for each other. And that's why, if you look at Tech now, I know it's a different time with Coach Fuente and them, but at the same time, Tech had pipelines from Oscar Smith, Thomas Dale Phoebus, Highland Springs, Hampton High, Ocean Lakes, schools in Northern Virginia, and so on and so on. Now, those guys are going elsewhere. And if you look at it, Virginia is no longer the best kept secret, because both UVA and Tech have to deal with Ohio State, Alabama, and North Carolina, other big schools coming down, plucking those guys from Tidewater, Richmond, and Northern Virginia.
So, Dwight, I know recently you've been working with the Tech, or it's probably not new now, it's probably been a couple of years, around the relationship between the current staff, or just Tech itself, the athletic department, and the former players. How has that relationship got better? Has it improved? Were you able to move the needle there?
I think I have. I mean, I think when you are well respected like me from the new generation and the old generation, like the guys from the late 80s know me, the guys from my era know me, and even the guys that played in the late 2000s, the J.C. Colemans, the Luther Maddies, the Greg Stromans, the Ricky Walkers, the Tim Settles, they all know me and respect me. So, Trey Turner was just on my podcast I did with Mike. So I think they call me the OG. I think when you have the right people, I mentioned relationships, when you have the right person talking to a group of people, then they're going to listen. And I think the AD Whit Babcock has made a concerted effort to make sure that the former players understand that they want us around, but you got to have the right messenger. Is it where it needs to be? It's not there yet, but you got to look at Virginia Tech staff too. That helps. I think they're one of the top programs in the nation when it comes to former players on their staff. You have Kavea Winslow coaching there, Jack Tyler coaches linebackers. You have Pearson Prelo. You have J.C. Price, Justin Hamilton, a former player as a defensive coordinator. You also have not Keith Short, but you have a few more players that played there that are now coaching on the team. So I think former players see that there's a relationship, and I think it's all about just finding guys like myself to speak and connect guys and for people to feel welcome. I think Tech, there was a drop off because when Beamer retired, he went into just enjoying his retirement and supporting his son Shane in coaching and enjoying being a grandfather. Then you had Jim Weaver passed away, God rest his soul, who was the AD there since 1998. When you had a new regime come in with Whit Babcock, Justin Fuente came from the Midwest. He's a Texas, Oklahoma guy, and he coached at Memphis. He doesn't know about all these guys. So he's coming in trying to win ball games. And Whit is coming in trying to get the basketball program, got Buzz Williams, and then now they got Mike Young. So he's trying to build these other programs. So they kind of walked into a situation where Virginia Tech was spoiled, man. Beamer was there for 20-something years, man, and the AD was Dave Brain and Jim Weaver. So when you have that consistency and lack of turnover, you can pretty much understand what's expected every year, not just with football, but with a lot of the sports. But there's been a lot of transition at Tech here lately. A new president a few years ago. Now you have Mr. Sands. So I think all that stuff now is ironed out. I've been a big part of it. I welcome that. I'm really good at bringing people together. That's one of my gifts. I know my role. Like, I'm not emotional. Like, so if somebody says, like, for example, if somebody says, hey, man, UK basketball is better, they have way more national champions. You're right, they do. I love Tony Bennett. Like, come on, bro. Like, I'm not going to get mad. Or if you say, hey, we got to do better at this, you're right. Like, when you play sports and you understand how to be a husband and be a father, I'm a leader. I'm a business owner. I own 2 businesses. I know how to take constructive criticism and feedback without getting emotional. I know how to do an honest assessment. I know how to work with people from different genders and different races and different backgrounds. I think successful people know how to do that, and I'm very good at that. But I'm also not one of these guys to take myself too seriously. So I'm not always like, well, look at me, I'm the first Vic that ever been at Virginia Tech. So it's just cool. And, I know who I am. I know my role. And I think people really respect that and appreciate that.
Hey, so Dwight, what are you up to these days? You just mentioned 2 businesses. What are those 2 businesses?
So I got Victory Life LLC, which is my I'm a licensed therapist, and I'm big onto mental health and big in giving back to my community. So Victory Life LLC is a program focused on uplifting high school and middle high school students and their families through counseling, therapeutic mentoring, life skills groups, and also family and individual counseling. So my practice is out here in Northern Virginia, Prince William County, but we have contracts in Fairfax, Fauquier, and Prince William County. So I work with a lot of different people, at-risk youth, people dealing with mental health disorders, also trying to heal families that are dysfunctional, from everything, from teaching kids how to control their anger, career development, role modeling. And then I also have Victory Life Youth Sports, which is a 501c3. So Victory Life is for profit. Victory Life Youth Sports is a 501c3. I started a few years ago. Just as I mentioned, I love sports. That kind of keeps me connected, but it's not just about getting kids to get scholarships. It's focused on really helping kids use sports to further themselves in their careers, whether it's through broadcasting, entrepreneurship. We give back, we do toy drives, we do fundraisers. Once this COVID thing is under control, we're going to do more stuff in the community where we do parent symposiums on academics and, I'm just trying to pour myself into community. I mean, people joke that I get 26 hours out of 24 in a day because I live my life with passion and purpose. So I am involved in a lot. I got 3 podcasts, 3 children, 1 wife though. So, but at the same time, man, like Victory Life Youth Sports and Victory Life LLC, it started when I was being recruited by Tech UVA in Florida. I knew because of my mom and dad always telling me, you're not always going to be able to play this game. So back then I began to plant those seeds and brainstorm, and I just watched successful people. Even as I talk to you, Paul, and the rest of you guys, I'm listening and learning how you operate. I'm always observing. I'm always paying attention to successful people. I learn how to read a lot. I learn how to assess myself where I'm like, okay, I don't have it figured out, but let me figure out how to do it. So I'm just out here right now. I'm based out of Northern Virginia, right outside of DC, about 30 minutes away. And, I got a family of 5 and, I'm doing counseling, mentoring, groups, just trying to help make sure people's mental health is taken care of, as well as a lot of kids have a place. We have 4 or 5 AAU basketball teams in the Victory Life Youth Sports program, but we are so much more than sports. Like I said, community services and fundraising and things like that.
That's awesome. You surprised me by saying 3 podcasts. I know about the one you do with Mike. What are the other 2?
So if you look it up on YouTube, I got the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight, VICK, Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. I started that in the heart of COVID, when COVID first happened. That came before the one I did with Mike. That actually is the one with Dwight Hollier. We have cancer survivors on there, Terry Kirby, Ahmad Hawkins is on there, Elton Brown, Marcus Higgins, Shane Beamer, Frank Beamer's on there, Aaron Rouse. I've done about 60 episodes of Fazil Abraham, who played at Marquette, Taj Abraham, his sister, who's the assistant basketball coach for the Georgetown Hoyas women's basketball program. High school coaches, Sherman Rivers at Patriot High School, tons of high school basketball coaches. Gosh, so many great guys, former Tech players. That's Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. That is about trying to highlight legacies of people I respect and admire. Like I said, we got cancer survivors on there, people. Lisa Weatherspoon, the Virginia Tech Hall of Fame female basketball player. Obviously, I've done an interview with Mike on there. And then the other podcast I do that periodically. That's the Victory Life Legacy podcast. I record with my co-host, Danny Noakes. We haven't recorded in about 6 weeks because he's in transition. But that just covers sports. That gives me a chance to talk about the Nationals, the Yankees, basketball, football, track, hot topics. That's probably not as popular. We've only done 15 episodes, but I do that with Danny because Danny and I have done a lot of stuff together. And that just gives me a chance because I'm so much more than a football player or former football player. I'm so much more than a father. So I just keep myself busy. But I will say this for your listeners, I don't overdo it. I'm not one of these people that glorify working yourself to the bone and passing out on the beltway. I'm not going to do that. I will be a slob or as a slouch, or like that movie I was watching, one of my favorite movies, Seven, when he, sloth or whatever, which one that was, laziness.
Yes.
I will.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? Yeah.
What's in the box? Oh,
yeah, but yeah, man.
Very cool. So what advice do you have for us as podcasters?
With the podcast,
yeah,
man, just stay true. Just stay true to yourself, man. Keep working, man. Keep giving everybody good content, man. And also make sure that you get great people on, man, because no matter what, great people are going to attract great listeners and great followings. And I will say this too, man, you don't have to be nothing against guys like Skip Bayless. And I think right now everybody's looking for hot takes and clickbait. I think integrity has been lost. I think you can be entertaining. Like we've had a great show tonight. Like this has been informative for those that want to know about what I do and also, my story and other people like me. I mean, I bet you a lot of people didn't know about the Terry Kirby and Mike Vick stuff. I mean, I just think right now, man, what Victory Life is about, the tagline on Victory Life is leave a legacy. And I think you guys want to make sure when it's all said and done, when you get to your 100 show, you celebrate it. And you get to your 200 show, you celebrate it. You're going to leave a legacy. There are people that are going to check for this. And then 25 years from now, they're going to start talking about the information and the shows you guys gave everybody. I think when you're in a moment right now, some people are trying to rush to get to that stage where they're glorified and they're celebrated. But when you have your head down, you're grinding like the way you guys are, when it's all said and done, it's going to be like, wow, I didn't realize they recorded over 500 shows. That's crazy. But you guys are just having fun doing what you're doing. And I think that's what it's all about. And I just feel like, man, when you appreciate, you love what you're doing, it's going to happen. If you're trying to manufacture this little, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to get this guest on, it's not going to be great, it's going to be manufactured. So my advice is to live your life with purpose, keep being true to yourself, keep giving guys great content, and keep having fun and enjoying it, man. Like, this has been a lot of fun for me, man. I've had a long day, but I was looking forward to jumping on today.
Hey, you said that beautifully. I couldn't have said any of that any better than you just did. And speaking of fun, Kevin has a question that he loves to ask at the end of each podcast. So, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, it's my 12-part question. It's not a 12-part question. And I will say this, Dwight, it's been tremendous talking to you tonight. And we got a new saying, or at least I did, out of this podcast. It's cold enough to make a preacher swipe a blanket. And I will use that down the road. Anyway, so thank you for that. So here's my last question, or our last question, I guess. So tonight, Jimmy Fallon is sick, unfortunately so. And Dwight Vick has been called upon to take his spot. So we'd like to know, as your audience, if you could pick a male guest, a female guest, and a music group. And we've also expanded this to say you could pick a comedian as well, kind of to get to know you and your taste and all that good stuff. And you could, This is dead or alive. You could pick anybody that's been in your past. It could be, who knows, somebody from the year, I don't know, 1060, whoever interests you. But take a second if you need one. Maybe you already know.
He looks like he's ready. He looks like he's ready.
Oh, I love it.
So I'll start with the music. I'm gonna need to refer back to you with some of these questions. So the first question, the music group is easy. That would be the Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan is, I watched their show on Hulu. I grew up, I'm a hip hop head, but interesting, you don't go to Virginia Tech or schools like Virginia Tech or UVA or Maryland, whatever, without having a diverse music taste. So it's not all about hip hop for me. I like a lot of genres of music, but I will say, for me, Wu-Tang Clan, when you look at how they changed the landscape of not just hip hop, but also how record deals were done. And also the fact that it's very similar to my lifestyle when you talk about over 25 years, almost 30 years of brotherhood, how they've been able to sustain the loopholes of success and stay united as one group and influence a whole generation of new artists is amazing. I would love to just sit and talk to the RZA and Method Man and all those guys, because I mean, you look at them now, RZA did the musical score for the Quentin, what's his name? The Kill Bill series, the movies. He got nominated for Oscars. He also, he did Tarantino films. He also has been in several movies. Method Man is a known actor. Those guys are now in their late 40s, early 50s, and are still relevant in different genres of acting and entertainment. So I would love to have them on. What was the other one you said?
Guest? A male guest? Yeah, a male guest.
Ooh, male guest. Who would I have on? Oh my gosh. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I like so many. I like listening to people, man. Like, I want to make sure I follow your podcast. podcast when I'm done with this. I want to make sure who would I want to get on? I don't know, man. I don't really care for politics, sports. Oh, no, I would say Joe Gibbs, but I've heard him talk a lot. Would it be? I don't know, man. That's a tough one. Oh, okay, hold on. I can't do more than one, but I'll just say this is going to surprise some people, not for me. I would love to have on Leonardo. How do you say his last name?
DiCaprio. Yeah, DiCaprio.
Yeah. Between him and Don Cheadle, they're my favorite actors. But Leonardo, I feel like I've grown up on him. I mean, I think he is just his role and diverse acting skills, from everything from Django Unchained to when he was a kid doing the Basketball Diaries. I just love his ability to act. I mean, The Wolf of Wall Street, anytime it's on, I'm watching it. I just respect him as an actor. I just feel like, you know, when he's in something, I'm going to watch. And that's tough for me because I'm a movie guy. And Denzel is a close second, because Denzel obviously is the GOAT. But Leonardo's my guy, man. I mean, I think he's only had one Oscar, or has he even won one?
I don't
He did
know
win
that
one, I believe.
Did he?
I think he did. Yeah, I think it was one of the
Gangs of New York
movies that he did. Which Scorsese,
Gangs
I
of New
think.
York?
I could be wrong.
No,
You
it
don't
was
fact check on your Dwight, so I could be.
We definitely don't fact check. It was the Boston-based mafia movie, Departed. Departed.
That's another one.
There it is.
Like his when he's in the movie, I forget he's acting, man.
Yeah.
When he was when he was undercover in The Departed, how he was going back and forth and he was stressed and he was spazzing on that therapist and grabbing the pills. And I'm telling you, man, like that scene when he was in Wolf of Wall Street, and he says, I'm not leaving. Female, I don't do politics, but I'll say this. I am a big fan of Michelle Obama, only because I respect her classiness. Like, I heard her speak at the Democratic convention. And again, I just so I can disclaimer, I don't debate, I don't get on Twitter and go back and forth with people, but Michelle Obama talked about, her stepping out on faith and supporting her husband, but she's been able to withstand a lot of people that have come at her, and she's all about just uplifting other people and, supporting other people. And I'm big on community service. Like, if there's a cause I can donate to, if I can speak on, no matter what race, color, gender, whatever, I'm there. So she inspires me. I would love just to talk to her. I think she's pretty cool. But I'm sure after we close out this this show, I'm going to think about somebody else. And what was the other one?
Well, that's still a pretty good one. A comedian. Who's your favorite comedian?
Oh my gosh! Why are you doing this, man? Comedian?
I think the answer is pretty obvious, Dwight.
So I don't know. So I got two guys. So I got two guys, because comedy. So for me, comedy and action, I'm going to watch them. So there's two. I'm sorry, I know you want one, but they're going to both be on the game.
That's cool.
Together. And that is Eddie Murphy and Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell. Yeah, Will Ferrell, man. I know some people don't like him. I know a lot of people do. I'm a fan of him because I'll start with Will first, is because he's so stupid. Like, he's so like Step Brothers. Like, when you see him in something, anything he does. Like, I'm a grown man, and when Elf comes on during the holidays, I'm going to watch it. I'm just telling you, man. Those Step Brothers, like him and that guy, like, they're just stupid. Or just any move, like Ron Burgundy. I never forget when that came out. I watched Ron Burgundy one time, and I missed the whole meeting because I got hooked. I was at home, and I just watched it over and over again. And I just love him. I love stupid comedy. And then Eddie, because he's the GOAT, because Eddie, he could do Donkey as Shrek, and then he can also do something serious like Dreamgirls. Then you look at the 80s, he did an iconic song with my man, Rick James. My girl wants to
party all the time.
Party all the time. Eddie Murphy is GOAT. And then you look at one of the dumbest egregious movies of all time, but I'm gonna watch it because I like nonsense sometimes, and that's Norbit. Then I'll say this: you look at Coming to America, you look at Trading Places, you look at those movies from the 80s, his role on SNL, Eddie Murphy has got to be top 3 of all time. So I would love just to talk, because he, as much as those guys entertain us, comedians aren't respected the same way Leonardo is, because Leonardo is such a great actor, but to me, it takes the same kind of skill to make people laugh when you know they have to make you laugh, especially when they get into character. Eddie gets into character, man. You know, he played that Jewish guy and Coming to America. I didn't even know that was him till the movie was over, you know? But anyway, that, you know what, can I say this real quick before we end up?
Sure.
That's the best question I've ever been asked in my life, man.
Oh my gosh. And it's
Yes.
Kevin. I got to give Kevin credit there.
That's the best question. I mean, I've been in seminars and meetings. I think the next best question I asked is, if I was an element, what would I be? And I said water, because water could be versatile. But that was the best question I've ever been at, because that really made me think. Oh man, that was a great question.
It's also
You know what,
revealing.
Dwight?
It's also revealing about who you are, Dwight. Right?
Oh yeah,
Well,
I mean that. I mean, I'm really, Kevin. I mean that. You can post it online. That's the best question I've been asked in my life, by far. Best question.
Hey, I don't need to post it. I just appreciate you telling me that. I used to use that as an icebreaker in the corporate world, and when you get new hire teams and stuff like that, just to hear about people. But I've always loved hearing people's answers. So thank you for playing along.
Oh man, that was a great question.
By the way, Dwight, Dave Chappelle is my answer to that question, and Eddie Murphy is maybe the most talented entertainer I've ever had the privilege of witnessing. He was amazing when I was younger, and he's still amazing. He's still doing amazing stuff.
See what you did? See, Paul, that's why I said I would have gotten off this call and be like, why didn't I say David Chappelle? To me, David Chappelle is a genius. I mean, but then you got Chris Rock. Like I said, Will Ferrell, to me, he's the guy, like, especially when I was younger, I'm not going to say this on your show, but I would have done a lot of crazy stuff with. Like, Will Ferrell is, even when he was in that movie Old School, when he was streaking, I mean, he's just, he's just stupid.
He's Frank the Tank.
Yeah, Frank the Tank. Nah.
Dwight, this has been awesome, man. A privilege and an honor for us. We had a great time talking to you and learning about your story, and we really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Oh no, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I hope I was good. Again, I thank you guys both, man. Please let me know how I can keep up and support it. I don't know if there's a thing to subscribe to, but let me know. Text it to me so I can get other people on it. And you guys got a friend for life, a supporter for life. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, that works in every direction, Dwight. Hey, can you hang on for a second?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.